Welcome everyone, I am Adesewa Josh and this is a special episode of Africa Matters from Uganda's capital city, Kampala. This week, I speak to President Yoweri Museveni, a revolutionary soldier turned politician who has been in office for nearly 4 decades. But will he be president for life?
I'm building my family. My family, Uganda is my family.
And a mining company in South Africa says it's on track to cut carbon emissions by using green machinery. But local residents demand it does more. In an exclusive interview with President Yoweri Museveni, I asked where he sees the Turkey-Uganda relations heading, Uganda's strategic role in maintaining peace and security in East Africa, and whether the president plans to run again for office. Your Excellency, President Yoweri Museveni, thank you so much for making out time for this interview.
Thank you.
Uganda trades more with China, India, and African countries than it does with the West. But in the past decade, we have seen the Uganda Turkey relations grow steadily, especially in the area of trade. Where do you see the Uganda Turkey relations heading forward?
Well, Turkey, I have not to look. You see, when we attract Turkish investors, we tell them that you come here to make money. And making money means you produce a good or a service for the internal market of Uganda of 43 million people, for the regional market of East Africa of 300 million people, for the continental market of Africa of 1.45 billion people. Then also you can export back to Turkey, or you can export to third parties like the United States, like European Union, like China. So this is the message. The message is you come and make money, and in the process contribute to the growth of Uganda's economy, the creation of jobs, and so on.
The International Court of Justice ruled recently that Uganda should pay reparations of $325 million to the DRC for the effects of the brutal war of 1998 to 2003. At the time, Uganda said that paying that money is just going to kill its economy. Have you decided to pay that money, and have you worked out a payment plan?
We shall pay. These are just neo-colonial maneuvers, which some of those neo-colonial agents use to stop cooperation among African countries. Because everybody knows how the Uganda army went to Congo. It was to stop the same very groups, the ones of Rwanda, the ones who had committed genocide in Rwanda. They had run to Congo. And these ones, ADF, the ones who were being used by Bashir. This is why we went to Congo to deal with them that time. But the neo-colonial agents, with their corrupt legal lawyers who want to steal money, they fabricate this. So we shall pay that money, and in time.
How long do you see your troops staying in Somalia, since there's been a gradual pullout of AU troops since the attack on the ATMIS camp that killed a couple of peacekeepers?
No, we don't pull out because of attacks. We went there because we went to fight. So if they attack us, we fight. Like yesterday.
But how long can you stay? I mean, you said something about Somalia not having a national army. How long can you continue to prop up that country?
We are discussing with all these wonderful people, the regional as well as the international. I was discussing with the British minister who was here the other day. You see, either we have a capable national army to take over and keep Somalia safe, or we have enough external troops, because when we chased Al-Shabaab from Mogadishu, they went to the rural areas, and we didn't have enough manpower to go there. So that's what creates this stalemate. They are not in Mogadishu, but also we are not in the savannah area, in the bush. So either we have enough manpower, because Somalia is a big country, it's not small. It's about three times the size of Uganda in land area. It is not heavily populated, but it's not small. So we need more manpower there.
So you're going to be in Somalia for as long as it takes?
Yes, if the African Union wants and Somalia government wants, we can be there and even do more if they want us to do more.
So, Mr. President, let's talk a little bit about local politics. What do you say to people who say that the celebration of life, actually, it's the celebration of your son's 40th birthday, is a strategic way of positioning him to, if he wants, become president of the country? And he himself has been on Twitter talking a lot about how he's very interested in being the leader of this country. And so people are criticizing, is Uganda heading towards hereditary rule?
It was
not a strategic political positioning for him to take over as president.
No, it was just his birthday. But there was goodwill and people came up, which was good. But this was a birthday. It was a birthday.
So what do you say to people who are saying, no, he's just preparing his son to take over as president, or it's going to be hereditary rule in Uganda? What do you say to those people?
Uganda belongs to Ugandans. Does not belong to me, does not belong to my family. It is for the Ugandans to decide.
Looking back at nearly 4 decades in office, do you have any regrets politically or personally? And how do you wish to be remembered by Ugandans, by Africans, and by the rest of the world?
I don't have, because everything has been written down. What has been done has been what has been achieved has been achieved. What has not been achieved is known, or certainly written down. So I don't have any regrets.
Your Excellency, President Yoweri Museveni, thank you so much for being patient and for granting this interview.
Thank you.
Most Ugandans have only known one president, and that is Yoweri Museveni. So we went to the streets of Kampala to find out what they think about the state of the country.
In my country here, things are not running so well. Everything is highly priced. Fuel prices are so high. People are earning less money. They buy the same fuel with those people who are earning a lot of money. So you find that we have a lot of inconsistencies. We have, people are not doing well.
Sincerely speaking, we lost everything in Uganda. As far as democracy is concerned, we don't talk about it. There's no democracy at all. Since Obote's regime, since 1981, Uganda elections have never been free and fair. You get my point?
We don't have freedom. They are just lying us that we have freedom, but we don't have freedom. Because we don't have good thing. We don't have good life. There's no good life. We are just suffering, totally.
It is true there is no democracy because of high corruption. There is corruption in Uganda. First of all, corruption leads to no democracy. So people everywhere, to get a job somewhere, you have to be a child of someone. You are related to someone.
At least 600 investors from Turkey and Uganda met here in Kampala for a 2-day business summit. In 2020, both countries saw a steady rise in their trade volumes despite the coronavirus pandemic. With a combination of tax incentives and a free trade industrial park, the Ugandan government hopes to become the top destination for Turkish investment in East Africa. I spoke to some trade owners who are doing business in the capital. For 2 years, Turkish businessman Levent Serdar operated at a loss exporting industrial lubricants to Uganda. He said his products were of higher quality, but he couldn't compete with cheaper imported brands in the market due to high taxes and currency exchange rates. In 2019, Serda opened Uganda's first industrial lubricant factory, Potenza, after taking advantage of a government tax break for investors willing to set up shop in the country.
We are going to come to the break-even in Uganda. So this year we are expecting around $1 million US dollar turnover. This is what we are expecting this year, and we are going to be there at the break-even. I think that's what we are going. But next year and the other years, we are very optimistic about the development of Uganda.
The IMF says Uganda's economy will bounce back to its pre-pandemic growth rate of 6% by the end of next year. And when that happens, Serda plans to increase its workforce, made up of mostly Ugandans, from 12 to 50 as its business expands. Last year, the trade volume between Uganda and Turkey increased to $71 million, but Uganda's share of that revenue is barely 15%. It comes from companies like KK Fresh Produce, which exports unprocessed agricultural crops to Turkey. Agriculture is the backbone of Uganda's economy, and the World Bank says it contributes half of export earnings and a quarter of the country's gross domestic product. CEO James Kanyinje hopes the business summit between Turkish and Ugandan investors in Kampala will address the issues of funding that's plaguing the country's major export sector.
You don't need to put capital everywhere. You need to say there are 15 companies. Let me invest in them in the next 20 years and see what happens. And that's how the country will follow.
The government hopes Turkish investment will help diversify its economy and create jobs. But some Ugandan economists want that the government must insist on knowledge and skills transfer for that to happen.
If we can develop the manufacturing sector, then transfer the knowledge, the technology, and the skills, from high-end country like Turkey to Uganda, then you're going to give, jobs to these youth.
Ugandans hope their government will sign trade deals with more Turkish investors like Serda, who will put them first. We have more stories coming up for you here on this special episode of Africa Matters, including...
I am in Tepeng Mutima, and I'll tell you how the mining industry in South Africa is looking to lower its carbon footprint.
South Africa is stepping up its effort to reduce carbon emissions while also positioning itself as a global hub for green energy production. The country recently unveiled the first hydrogen-powered heavy-duty truck to be used in platinum mining. The innovation has been led by Anglo-American Mining Company, which extracts 40% of the world's platinum in South Africa's Limpopo province. Nsepeng Botema reports.
Leading the drive towards clean mining, the new Gen zero-emission haulage truck is part of Anglo-American's plan to reduce its reliance on fossil fuels to power its operations. It's the first time a heavy-duty vehicle of this size and load capacity has been converted from diesel to run on hydrogen fuel cell.
The hydrogen economy is important for us as a country because it becomes a way that we can supply cheap, reliable energy to all of our sectors. It's an opportunity for economic growth. There's also an opportunity for export of renewables out of South Africa.
The truck took 2 years to build and was launched by the president at Anglo-American's Mogalakwena complex, the world's largest open-pit platinum mine.
Our objective is to be the real center, the real hub of the green hydrogen production. And that is the destination that we are moving to. It will lead to the creation of new industries.
In total, this mine has 40 of these heavy hauling trucks, which run on diesel. Anglo-American says they plan to convert all of them to renewable energy by 2030 and to adapt their whole fleet globally by 2040.
South Africa is the biggest emitter of greenhouse gases on the continent, mostly because of big industrial projects such as this mine. Like many countries, it's been feeling the effects of climate change more and more. Parts of the country have been suffering increasingly from severe droughts, And recently, the province of KwaZulu-Natal was hit by massive flooding.
Outside the mine complex, residents from nearby villages are picketing. They say Anglo-American and their own local chiefs have failed to address the negative impacts of mining operations on the local community. Police stationed at the mine for the launch of the hydrogen-powered truck are sent to disperse the crowd.
We are tired of being robbed! We are tired of being robbed!
Protest leaders invite us to Masinya village, a stone's throw from the mine, to show us homes they say have been damaged by the mine's rock blasting activities.
We feel so unsafe because the houses will be shaking, windows will be breaking, when blasting is happening. The dust will be all over, and the smell of the chemical coming from the blasting is also impacting, the community.
They also accuse the mine of encroaching on their agricultural land and contaminating water streams that their livestock rely on. The mine's management says they are working to resolve these issues. But after years of complaints, these villagers say they expect more than fine words before they can applaud Anglo-Americans' drive towards a greener and healthier planet. They say they'd like to see the mine's impact on its local communities improve. Ntshepeng Mutema, Africa Matters, Mogalakwena, South Africa.
Rescuers in Burkina Faso are still trying to reach 8 mine workers trapped at a Canadian-owned zinc mine for more than 3 weeks. 6 of them are Burkinabe nationals, while the other 2 are from Tanzania and Zambia. Rescuers have been pumping water from the flooded mine to try and reach the closest refuge chamber to the miners. The government says it has launched an investigation into the incident and barred mine managers from leaving the country while the probe is underway. On Wednesday, South Africa recorded more than 10,000 new COVID-19 cases for the first time since January. The World Health Organization says the current surge is being driven by the Omicron subvariants and relaxed local restrictions. Despite the rise in infections, hospitalization rates remain low. About 45% of South Africa's adult population have been fully inoculated, but the pace of vaccinations has slowed in recent months. The largest white diamond ever auctioned has been sold for $21.9 million at Christie's annual Magnificent Jewel Sale in Geneva. The buyer of the 228.31 carat masterpiece, which is larger than a golf ball and has been dubbed the Rock, has not been named. The head of Christie's, Max Fawcett, said that the Rock, which originated in South Africa, is one of the rarest types of gems, with a perfectly symmetrical pear-shaped form. The auction house had expected it to fetch $30 million. In Nigeria, a social entrepreneur and visual artist is stirring up fond memories of nursing home residents by bringing their favorite musicians to life through virtual reality. Sumaya Jelilan has more.
Onotolo Onojobi is reliving his youth. The 77-year-old is watching some of his favorite musicians come to life before him, all from the comfort of his care home in Lagos, Nigeria. Onojobi was a disc jockey in his younger years and says this virtual reality headset has helped him connect with music like never before.
It looked as if I was watching Richard on stage. It gave me a feeling I can never forget.
Kunle Adewale is an artist who focuses on what he calls therapeutic art projects. He founded Tender Arts Nigeria, a non-profit social enterprise that has carried out initiatives in many countries. After the death of his parents, Adewale decided to bring joy to senior citizens. In 2021, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari signed the National Senior Citizens Act, which requires communities to take care for the elderly. But cultural norms means many are resistant to placing older family members in care facilities. Madupo Agosto runs the elderly care home and insists that people's attitudes must change and the safety of older people must be considered.
you find a lot of old people getting missing, getting lost, while trying to just take a walk, and then they can't find their way back home. So with all those happening around, we need to educate people and let them know that old people are not witches. Because they have white hair does not mean they're a witch. They have lived life. They were once young, vibrant, active, just like we are.
And while virtual reality cannot replace real experiences like family visits and trips outside the home, Adewele's project is a safe way of getting their seniors' groove back. Sumaya Ceylan, Africa Matters.
The Indian Ocean's Reunion Island has been trying to become self-sufficient for years. But that means growing enough food for 860,000 people. The island relies heavily on imports of staple foods like rice, onions, and garlic, which means when global supplies are disrupted, prices soar. Adama Bunu explains.
Farmers take advantage of every piece of land they can find here. The COVID-19 pandemic had already disrupted imports of food and other essential supplies. After Russia launched its war in Ukraine in February, consumer prices climbed by 1.4% in March, the highest rate since 2002.
Incoming products such as fertilizers, animal feed have increased a lot. For example, a bale of fertilizer that used to cost less than $21 has risen up to $42 for 25 kilograms of bale. So it's almost impossible to work with fertilizer. We are going to try again to work with manure, or simply to go organic.
The president of the Reunion Chamber of Agriculture, Frederick Vienne, says the idea of food self-sufficiency for the island is almost utopian. It imports 44,000 tons of rice each year. Even with local production, it's not enough to meet consumer demand, and arable land is scarce.
Because it's not normal that on an island you can have 7 eager young people who want one plot of land. You find owners of agricultural land who don't use it and who have left it there to waste with problems such as rats and mosquitoes. So today, the smallest hectare must be used to move towards this goal of autonomy, security, and food self-sufficiency.
People here consume 100 million litres of milk a year, but only 17 million litres are produced locally. To overcome its reliance on imports, analysts say Reunion needs to modernise farms and train new breeders. Some distributors prefer to set up regional supply chains for food and trade more with other African countries. Consumers like Nadia just want to buy food at affordable prices.
There will be upheaval, inevitably. There will be changes. It will take us time to adapt. It's already underway. We have to follow the movement, quite simply.
And many like her hope that price increases and shortages will soon be a thing of the past. Adama Bunu, Africa Matters.
This week, we explore Banguela in western Angola. It's home to a rebuilt railway line connecting the larger port of Lobito to the rest of mineral-rich Angola and some of its neighboring countries. Let's take a closer look. That's our show this week. Please share your thoughts and suggestions about the stories you've seen on this episode or ideas on what you would like us to cover on Twitter using the hashtag #AfricaMatters. Feel free to reach out to me on my personal handle @Adesewa Josh. You can watch this episode and more on YouTube. Just search Africa Matters TRT World. Like, comment, and share. I will see you next week.